All right, welcome back to another episode of What's Hockey. As we always do, gonna jump into around that hockey. There's some draft news, Hart Award finalists, and then a coach retired. Keaton, do you want to start us off with the finalists for the Hart Award?
Yeah, so I mean, basically, what we've been saying all season is between McKinnon, McDavid, and Kucherov. McKinnon is the heavy favorite, so we'll see what happens there. I mean, the only two players out of those three, McDavid and McKinnon, are both in it still, as far as the playoffs are concerned. So, I mean, they can still, you know, rack up their votes, whatnot, and make sure that they're, the MVP. But for the most part, it sounds like McKinnon's the heavy favorite. McDavid, I think he's already won three over his career, so it'd be nice to see McKinnon win his first one. So, um, yeah, it'll be interesting to see who wins that. But I mean, obviously McDavid is the favorite, so we'll see if he's the
McKinnon.
actual winner or not. I say
Yeah,
McDavid.
yeah,
Yeah,
but and I'll
they're
talk
the
about
same
it
player.
in a bit when we get to us talking about the playoffs and me talking about the Stars. But McKinnon, obviously, last night, Tuesday night, put in a goal that sent it to OT. So I'm not liking watching him, but the man's talented. I would understand if he wins the award. Moving on, the Sharks last night they got the first pick in the draft. Keaton.
Yeah, the lottery went their way. Obviously, they had the better odds, but it could have been possible that Chicago got back-to-back first-round picks, or I guess first picks overall. But yeah, they're number two anyway. It doesn't look like, as far as the standings are concerned, it doesn't look like anything got like messed up. So the true number one pick of the draft is going to the true worst team of the NHL this season. So it's pretty nice. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the Sharks are able to do. It looks like Celebrini is the favorite to be the number one pick. And, you know, everyone's going to be asking him, but he says that he's excited to work with the Sharks. I wouldn't be, but that's just me. But yeah, hopefully he can turn that franchise around and hopefully turn them into a playoff contender.
Yeah, so Sharks, of course, have the first pick in the draft. The Blackhawks got second. The Ducks third. We talked about those teams being perennially atrocious.
Pretty
And
bad.
so it makes sense that they end up there. I will mention last note on the draft that Utah has the number six pick. Of course, Utah is coming from Arizona. And so this will be the first pick in their franchise history. We'll see if they can make a splash. I, with hockey, I mean, odds are your guy is in the minor leagues for a few years, unless you're Connor Bedard. So we'll see how
Yeah.
that is down the road. I mentioned that a manager had retired. Rick Bonus of the Jets retired. I'll speak to that because he was the former head coach of the Dallas Stars. He's the one who was, I believe, he's an interim in 2020, and he was a part of that run where we went to the Stanley Cup Finals. Goalie was Kudobin, who played crazy. And it was like a magical run in the pandemic where there's not much entertainment. There's not things to go and do and see, and so you just have the stars on. Rick Bonus was a part of the coaching staff. He was the head coach of the team that got us to the Stanley Cup. So I mean that was a cool moment. I got some good memories. I know we didn't win it, but it was a light. At least that run was a light in what was kind of a bleak time period. So happy retirement, Rick Bonus. Sorry it didn't work out with the Jets. But let's jump into the playoffs. Keaton, the Dallas Stars last night, they go
I mean,
down.
round one has officially been over. You can talk about the games that weren't finished when we last recorded.
Okay.
Like the
Yeah,
Vegas
so
Knights having a game
game
on
seven.
the road. Yeah.
Yeah, game seven. Do you have some immediate thoughts about game seven, Stars and Vegas?
I mean, it was a pretty crazy game. Ended up, I think the Stars just held them out. They didn't really score that much. But the game in Vegas, the game before, was pretty crazy. I think they shut you guys out, right? The Stars. They got
Game
0 points.
six?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
2-0. It was
yeah.
Vegas who won that one.
So it's pretty crazy. I mean, Dallas seemed to be looking pretty great on the first game of the round two series. So it's unfortunate they did end up losing in OT, but for the most part, I mean, they've shot and scored 3 goals in the first period and forced the Avs to play comeback, catch up, whatever. So I mean, they ended up, answering the call, but we'll see what that series ends up playing out for us because Vegas ended up winning both of the first 2 games, and Dallas won 3 in a row. So
Yeah,
um,
I think you're right. I was just about to jump straight into Colorado, but you're right. We should mention Vegas. That game seven, it's 1-1 in the third period, and Radek Faksa comes up big with a backhand to win the game for us. And it's been a theme throughout the playoffs where the fourth line of the Dallas Stars has come very clutch. There's the game where it was Dodonov. Is Dodonov on the third line now? They mixed the lines up, so I do forget. But I do remember Ty Dellandrea. It goes off his face, and it goes in. I believe that was game five, maybe.
yeah,
But that the fourth line of the Dallas Stars has come up very clutch. Having that depth is a part of the reason that I predicted that they'd win it all. And they people talk about how when the playoffs come around, someone inevitably disappears. Not just because your stars aren't good anymore, but teams are crunching down on them harder. They've got two men looking in on them, and so you need your role players, your fourth line, to step up. And the Stars have had that, and that's what got part of the reason they got through Vegas. You mentioned the resiliency of losing your first 2 games in that series, and then you go ahead and win 4 of the next 5 games, 2 of them on the road. And so, going flash forward to against Colorado, we do lose game one. You're right, we did score 3 early on. Colorado gets 2 power play goals. And then McKinnon, we talked about earlier, who's the heavy favorite for the MVP, the Hart Award, goes ahead and ties it, sends it to OT, and Colorado takes care of business there, which is it sucked. But you're right. The Stars have showed resiliency, and so it's definitely nowhere near over. Like it's very much it's going to be a very competitive, good series. I do absolutely still believe in the Stars. I feel like I'm talking a lot right now. Do you want to jump in and give me your thoughts on the remaining games of this series?
I mean, we could just talk about other series because there are other series.
Not many
So
more,
Boston and
Corbin.
Toronto ended up finishing up a few days ago, and Toronto lost. I think they went into 2 OT, and Bruins ended up pulling off that magical comeback, I believe. And yeah, so it's the Bruins now. I thought the Maple Leafs would have pulled that off, but yeah, so now the Florida Panthers and the Bruins are playing against each other, and they have played, I believe, only 1 game so far. So it was really interesting. The Panthers ended up scoring the first goal and uh, had absolutely nothing to do with the last 5 because the Bruins just scored 5 in a row and nothing happened. I
In
mean,
Florida, I feel like home
yeah,
ice is such a strong thing, especially in the
and
playoffs and in
Bobrovsky's been
Florida.
playing so well. I mean, they've got Sam Reinhart, they've got Kachuk, they've got what's the other guy's name?
Barkov,
Verhage. Verhage.
Verhage,
Yeah,
they've
so
got a
they've
ton
got a
of
pretty stacked
players.
team. Their defense isn't that bad. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they just had nothing to answer with from what the Bruins were putting out, and it'll be an interesting series. But I still believe in the Panthers winning that series. The Rangers and Canes have already played a couple games, and it looks like the Rangers are pulling away with it. They've won the first 2. Last night went into 2 OT, which is
Yeah,
outrageous because it bled into the Stars game. And yeah, I don't even know when that finished. I think I just stopped watching. But eventually the Rangers pulling it off. I want to say it was. I'll just look it up. I don't
I
want to
want to
go.
say that game did not end until the second period of the Stars game. And that's the thing about playoff hockey, playoff overtime hockey
Trocheck.
compared
Yeah.
to Trocheck gets the winner.
Yeah.
And I kind of like it, but games can definitely last longer. In the regular season, it's a 3-on-3, and there's no 18-minute intermission. And so, I mean, it makes sense. It's playoff hockey. You got to let the players rest up the 18 minutes of normal intermission. Boy, that thing ran long, and it was in.
Yeah.
Was it in New York or was it in Carolina? Do you know? It was in New York. Well,
Probably. Yeah.
both are East Coast anyway, so I mean that game did not end until late for them. And I'm
Yeah.
surprised, knowing the NHL, that they even allowed the Stars to start when they did, because boy, they try to get every viewer they can. I'm surprised they didn't push us back an extra hour. Um,
Yeah, I mean they did have the little score in the top right corner of the both games just to make sure that you're on top of who's winning at the very least. But yeah, I mean it was pretty interesting. But I mean, what can you really do after two OT? You don't really know if that game's going to be even over at that point. So what are you going to do? Just push the Stars game out indefinitely? I mean that's kind of whack. So I kind of
yeah.
understand,
So I mean,
but
last night 2 OT games between the Stars and Avalanche, and then of course Carolina and New York. So some really tight series going on. Even though the Rangers are up 2-0 in that series, Carolina's been kind of in every
Carolina's not
game.
going away. I mean
No, they're
they're
not.
just
They're
in it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And okay, so you talked about Boston, and we didn't talk about them beating Toronto. They go to overtime again. The way they scored too is like Toronto, and to win the game is like Toronto fell asleep, just gave up on the
Yeah.
game. Lind something, Lindholm,
Lindwall.
Lindstrom, Lindwell, something like that. They go ahead and dump it down in the end into their attacking zone. Every Toronto player is just watching the puck, and Pasternak just comes out of nowhere, scoops it up, scores like nothing. And
Yeah, there's
so,
like a few replays where it shows William Nylander. He's just like, walking practically on the ice as opposed to like skating,
yeah,
trying to run after him, trying to stop anything. But he's just sitting there like watching it happen.
Toronto just didn't want him, man. You could say they were tired, whatever, but
And the
like we just,
goalie switch up. I mean, I feel like they could have won with, I think his name is Joseph Wall, WOLL. But I
yeah,
mean, he was playing pretty well for the first few games. I don't know why they just decided to switch it up.
I don't understand
Um,
it, man. But hey, Boston's moving on. We just talked about they played tonight as well
yeah,
against Florida. Of course, it will also again be in Florida. We'll see if Florida can actually do better at home, because I mean, allowing five. The last one was an empty net, right?
yeah.
But I mean, allowing that
It's
run
five
like that.
straight regardless.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
you
absolutely,
can't
man.
really do anything to, I mean, at least score one, I mean, you can't just allow five goals and have nothing to do on offense. Like,
Yeah,
I don't understand.
no, 100%. And so that series, it really felt like, I think you and I would both agree, even though I didn't have either team making it to the second round, when we knew that Florida was advancing and we realized that Boston was advancing over this past weekend. I think you and I both would have said Florida should dominate the series,
Yeah.
uh, win it in six at most, kind of. I never saw it going to a game seven, and it of course might not, but it might not the other way where Boston
Yeah.
takes over. But hey, we've seen in these playoffs that winning the first game on the road, winning even 2 games on the road, doesn't mean as much. You got to close it. You got to show up every single day and be ready to play. So we'll see where
Yeah, I
that
mean, the
goes.
Panthers did also have a rest, and the Bruins went to game seven, so that's also kind of adds to it. They've just been kind of sitting around doing nothing, the Panthers. So, I mean, they don't really have, I mean, sure, they've been practicing, but, they're not in that game time situation. They're not feeling that clutch aspect of the game. So, I mean,
Well, I will say, going back to the Stars, they definitely did have. They were the opposite, where the team that lost was the one that went to the game seven, and the team that rested gets
yeah.
it done. Maybe their
I mean, they
legs were
still scored
fresher.
three at the first period. So I mean, it's not like they're not doing anything
Oh, they
because it feels
started
like the
very hot.
Panthers didn't really do anything at all.
And there, don't get me wrong, man. There were multiple opportunities for goals. Like I know, I basically just like summarized it, didn't go into the details of the game. The Stars had so many chances, and there were some things that like pissed me off. Like real quick, got to talk about it. So the first power play that Colorado gets, We get a hooking call. I believe we fouled Kale McCarr,
Nice.
and he like stumbles and trips a bit, but they don't say anything. And then the third period comes around. The Stars get there's a hooking call. They call it against Colorado, but they call Rope Hintz for a simulation for essentially doing the same thing that Kale McCarr did. And so, I mean, the consistency of the officiating was killing me as well. Like, fine, if you're going to call it one way, call it that way the whole game.
Yeah,
Anyway,
exactly.
because I mean, like, because you give them a power play, they score off that, and then you just leave us on a 4-on-4 when you called that earlier as a power play. So, come on, man. But anyway, moving on. Other series going on. We've
We got
got
first game of Oilers and Canucks. I'm surprised they
yes,
kind of pushed that out because they were already kind of decided, but I guess they were waiting on the Stars game to finish up, or the series rather. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. They're playing the first game. I still believe the Orioles are going to pull that one off, but it'll be interesting to see what. What's his name?
Connor McDavid.
No, the
Oh,
coach, the Canucks. Tocchet.
oh,
There you go, Rick
yeah,
Tocchet.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we'll see what he gets to do around McDavid and the Oilers team. So I don't know. I just feel like the Canucks don't really have like major star power. I guess they just got depth and they're coached really well. So it'll be interesting to see exactly what happens because I mean the Oilers, they've got that superstar in Connor McDavid, and they've got that really good bond between head coach and their captain. So
They also got
um,
like Leon Draisaitl on the
oh
team
yeah,
too.
Draisaitl.
Yeah, I definitely think the Stars. Blah, my bad.
Oilers.
Edmonton has much more firepower than what Vancouver did. I mean, we saw it against the Predators, the Canucks. They uh, they would have 2-1 games, 1-0 games. Like they're not scoring a lot. They are not allowing a lot either. But
They're
I
also not
don't
shooting
think.
a lot. I mean, I believe Saros didn't even eclipse 20 shots on goal for like the whole
I think it was
series except for the
only
last game.
the last game. Yes, that was it. I mean, but I think that's why you and I both picked Edmonton. I think their firepower is much more superior. I
Yeah.
think that the Canucks are going to allow more goals in the first two games of this series than they did all last. What they go to six? All last six games against Nashville. So yeah, I expect McDavid and Draisaitl to come hard. They've got Nugent Hopkins. They've got a few guys there that can score. So yeah, I definitely think you and I are in agreement here. Edmonton, that should be their series. And wow, I can't believe there's only four series left. The fact that
Yeah.
we've already
Eliminations, buddy.
yeah, man. Yeah. Were there any over the weekend that occurred that we may not have?
No.
Islanders,
Well, it was only the Stars in
Toronto,
Toronto.
Boston, and Stars in Vegas. Yeah.
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 Man, my goodness. The season went by kind of quick, honestly. I feel like it was just the first day we recorded this podcast a few days ago, but
Yeah, I mean, it feels a little bit further away for me, but at the very least, it does feel weird that the series is already over, or the season rather. So I mean, we're just wrapping it all up. We still have, I don't know, maybe 2, 3 weeks left before we see the cup. Was that the 21st?
the
Do you
first
remember?
day of the
Or is it
Stanley
just?
Cup Finals.
Well, I guess it would
Uh,
depend on when Game Sevens happens.
Well, normally they have it like, oh yeah, man, I wish I had it pulled up. The oh no, yeah, no, I mean it varies. It depends if it goes to a game seven, but it says it will conclude
Yeah,
no later than June 24th, which is a month and a half away now. And it, of course, can conclude sooner than that.
yeah,
Uh, I guess I should update us on our brackets. Keaton, even though I think I may have mentioned it during the podcast, Keaton, you are ahead of me right now, as the only one you got wrong in the first round is Boston. You had Toronto, of course, beating them. I started terrible, especially on the Eastern side, where I had Tampa beating Florida, I had Boston beating Toronto, and I had the Islanders beating Carolina. So I only got one correct on that side, and that one was the team that scored the most points throughout the season, or got the most points throughout the season, and it was against the team that I didn't think deserved to be there in Washington. So not
Nice.
great by me on the eastern side of the bracket. On the western side, we were both perfect. As far as advancing to the next round, we both have Dallas and Edmonton in the west, and then you have Florida, Carolina in the east, and I had Tampa. They're out, but I got the Rangers as well. So I can still make the comeback, but it's going to take a lot.
It's not gonna happen, bro.
I would definitely need Carolina to lose for you, and then I would need Toronto to beat Florida because I would take out your Eastern Conference champion. So it's possible, but I do need a lot.
That's crazy, man. It's
We
like
made
the Red
these,
Wings trying to make the playoffs right now.
yeah,
You
honestly,
need like 17 different things to happen.
God. And okay, so we made these predictions a while ago, knowing who you have going through to the conference finals for each side. Is there any you feel not confident about that you've made? I know we talked about Florida's surprising loss, but it's super early. And you have
Yeah.
Carolina advancing over New York. Do you have any reservations about them clutching it for you?
So, I mean, the first two games have been home games for the Rangers. So, it is a little bit interesting to see. I mean, they haven't quite dominated, but they, did win both games. So, I mean, I still feel like the Canes, Carolina Canes, will not be like going away anytime soon. But I don't know how many games they're going to go through. I mean, it could be five, it could be four. But I mean, I still feel like they are still going to give them the run for the money, even if they don't advance. I still believe that they have a chance to kick him out, just like the Stars did. Just because, I mean, they've got Sebastian Aho. They've got some players, and
They do.
I just I still feel like the what's it called, President's Trophy curse. Is still alive and well. It's just gonna take them out at some point. Maybe the Edmonton Oilers end up doing, uh, some great things on that end. But yeah, so we'll just see what the playoffs have to give us. And yeah, what about you? Do you have any, I guess, reservations or
Well,
swaps?
on the eastern side, I can't do anything about the Florida Toronto matchup because I predicted neither team make it there. So I have a huge reservation on Tampa Bay making it to the conference finals, which I predicted stupidly. But as far as the Rangers versus Carolina, I do feel solid about the Rangers closing that series out. I think they're just like more physical. I know the talent Carolina has, and I know they can hang around with anyone. But I just think there's so much talent on New York as well, man. And so
Yeah,
I got to go
Trocheck,
with
Panarin,
Trocheck, Panarin, Zibanejad. Uh, I know they have more guys. I'm just blanking on it, but yeah, no,
Roslovich.
yeah. I mean, yeah, I feel pretty confident with the. I'm just
Yeah,
saying anyway. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, that guy too.
yeah. He's there. No, I feel pretty confident about the predictions I have available outside, of course, the L I took with Tampa. So
Yeah.
no, yeah. Keaton, you got any things you want to add before we wrap up this episode?
I mean, if you want, we can try to see what's gonna happen the next couple of games before we record. But I don't know. I
You
feel
want
like there's
to
a
make some
lot. There's a lot of
predictions?
games. Do you?
Uh, I mean, it is a lot of games. Let's just
Seems
say
like there's
what
like
the
two games a
series.
day
Let's just say
for
what
like
you predict the
for
series
a
will be
week.
like when we return on next Tuesday or Wednesday. So the Stars would play through Game Four before we record next Tuesday or Wednesday. I will say the series is oof 1-0. Let's go 1-1, 2-1. I'll say it's a 2-2 series in Dallas. before we record again. Do you have a prediction on that?
Um, at least the Stars. I think it'll probably be 3-1. I feel like the Avs got a little lucky on that last game last night. So I, I don't know. Maybe I'm just impartial, but I do believe that they'll probably pull it off.
Okay. Gotcha. Carolina and New York. The next time we record, they will be through Game Five. I will say it'll be 3-2 Rangers. Do you have a prediction on
Yeah,
that one?
I kind of feel like the same. Um, just kind of giving them the Rangers a win, and then Carolina winning two out of those three.
Okay. Florida. We've got they will be through game five. Well, if we record on Tuesday, they'll be through four. If we record on Wednesday, they will be through five. Let's say we record on Wednesday. Through five games, I will say it'll be 3-2 Florida. I think Florida comes back in that one.
Yeah, I think it might be 3-2 Florida as well, but I don't know. It's going to be interesting. They're in Florida and they just lost to the Bruins, so home games may not be the absolute denominator for who's going to win, who's going to lose. But um, yeah, I mean, I also saw that with the Vegas and Stars. Both teams lost home games, first two games. So um, yeah, it's going to be an interesting series. I honestly thought the Bruins were kind of like slugging their way through the playoffs, and I kind of expected the Maple Leafs to kind of just quickly end them. But yeah, they're still around. Might still be around. They've got a stud in Jeremy Swayman, but the
Yeah.
Panthers also have a stud in freaking Bobrovsky. I forgot his first name, but yeah, they're playing really well. Playing great hockey, so um, be interesting to see what happens. But the Bruins aren't going away. That's for
No, for
sure.
sure. And lastly, Edmonton and Vancouver. By the time we record again, they will be through four games. I will say that it's going to be 3-1 Edmonton.
I think so too. I was gonna say similar things. I honestly think that they're probably gonna take game one. I think the Canucks might take game two, and then Oilers might just be like, all right, we need to finish it off and just start going through it. I'm
Yeah,
not sure if they'll just gonna finish it in five games, but that fifth game it'll probably be you know three three
I mean
one
it.
or
It really wouldn't surprise me if they finish it as early as the fifth game, or even the sweep, which is difficult in the playoffs. But
yeah.
I don't see Vancouver getting it done at all.
Yeah, I mean they seem to play really well defense, but they just don't have very much offensive output. And their coach is great, but you can't really do anything about that if you're not winning.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think that's going to go ahead and wrap up this episode of What's Hockey. We'll go ahead and catch y'all later. Peace out.